During the kind of corporate party season, typically towards the end of the year, there's all type of cringe events you have to tolerate. So here are some do's and don'ts about the corporate party cringe. Let's pay attention to, the facilities you might have in an office typically, and when you shouldn't use them.
Hours a week in these things. Here's a post that I found that used the hashtag work hard. The pool table is a pretty big deal at our Hong Kong office, especially during lunch. If you use the pool table or ping pong table, you're going to be seen as a slacker. If you don't use them, you're going to be seen as someone who's not social. Imagine...
So this is a very short clip to start with, right? When you have a pool table, a ping pong table, a tennis table, any type of like work social area, it's a catch-22 situation. If you go there and you participate socially, it could be perceived positively as you're a team player by senior management, but sometimes if they're stressed with their own workload or the team is busy and you take a moment to take a break and then the wrong management contact sees you, they might have a negative perception of you. And particularly if maybe you've got senior management visiting the office quite briefly for a day or two, maybe for example, if you're new to the channel, I've been working in the finance industry for over 10 years at top investment banks such as this. And I was always conscious not to be seen, spending too much time socializing, talking, and not focused on the work. Because every little thing is being judged about you, how you sit at the desk, how you dress, how you speak with people, what you talk about, what political opinions you have, whether you're socializing or not, and things like that. So I wouldn't spend too much time with the table tennis table, playing pool and things like that. But sometimes people say, oh, you're not social enough, so they want you to get more involved in that and get involved in the social game. So, for example, with one of those sales and trading divisions that I worked at on the trading floor, I had a manager who was particularly toxic and particularly like verbally abusive, not just to me, but other people. And he would try and play fake nice and encourage me to kind of play snooker or with the table tennis in the office at the time. And I would be reluctant to do that because if someone crosses the line with you and then they want to drag you to like, hey, be social with me. I don't want to be social with someone who's clearly insulted me before and got away with it without senior management doing anything. But then this is how these things are used. It's kind of this completely superficial environment where people you don't typically like, who might be even gossiping about you 5 minutes before, but just to give the impression of, team cohesiveness, they want you to go and use these types of team social events or kind of areas within the office. So I would advise generally you shouldn't use these type of things unless a senior person is using it, and it depends on the level of seniority, right? So for example, your direct line manager might want to play pool with you and then you might go ahead and play that. But then if someone very senior sees both of you playing a game of pool in the middle of the workday, then they might judge you as not working hard. So it's so difficult to judge to know when you can and can't do something. But typically I would just take the cue of someone senior. If they've given you a free pass to do it, then you can engage in that. Me personally, I'm very conscious of my time. I respect my time. I don't like my time being disrespected. So if I go to work, I want to work during those hours. I'm not really here to play fake nice, and I want to go home on time. I don't want to spend an hour playing pool and then I have to do extra work and stay late. Now that's where it's very important for you to be aware of these environments. All these environments, they're typically just an extension of office politics, whether it's corporate Christmas party events, team events, these social areas in the office. And a major red flag to look out for in these major corporations is when they have these massive offices that they've turned into effectively fun activity areas with loads of lounges and kind of meeting rooms that look like they would fit within a bar or a literal lounge, right? Like an evening lounge. They would have things like coffee bars and things like that within their own office. And I understand obviously a company has to have some facilities for its employees. But anytime you have a big office that has this type of setup, it typically means they want their employees to dedicate all their social life and personal life around the office. Now, I'll give you an example. A company I have worked at, but all the information I'm sharing right now is publicly available. Goldman Sachs, where I worked in their sales and trading division, they moved their office in London. And it wasn't like they made a major move from maybe an expensive location to a cheaper location. It was literally like a 2-minute walk from one office to the other. And the brand new office is this massive building. It took many years to construct. It has tons of office space. And their new office, similar to the old one, but their new office has a lot more facilities, massive gym areas, these type of social networking type of areas with pool tables, things like that. And any major corporation that have all these type of facilities, on one hand, you might say, oh, that's good. Well, I might spend a lot of time in the office. I'll go to the work gym after. But then what ends up happening is that every aspect of that is you're constantly being judged, how you're spending your time, who you're speaking with. And major corporations, they turn activities or spaces where you'd want to break from the work environment into the work environment. So for example, I know many grown men that will go to Pilates sessions and yoga within the work gyms just to network. And because a lot of the women tend to have a lot of the power in the corporate environment now, you'd have like a man who has no interest doing Pilates or no kind of flexibility or whatever, but he'd go there to suck up to the senior management because he knows that'll help his career. I remember a guy who wasn't in any way interested in going to the gym and lifting weights, and he would just be a spotter, like, you know, helping my senior manager who was into bodybuilding, like professionally bodybuilding, as a managing director at a major sales and trading division. He would basically have, you know, people sucking up to him around the gym area just so they can help their career. And this did work for many people. People would get promoted, people would develop good working relationships. You might say that's normal. You network like that, but it's like, where do you draw the line then? If you're going to be in a building and your life is going to revolve around that building of that corporation, your job's there, you're working maybe 8, 10, 12 hours or more, you're having your dinner in the workplace canteen, you're to the work gym, all your friends are there. On one sense, it might sound good, but, you know, in this type of culture where things are very divisive, and there is a two-tier society throughout this aspect. And, you know, I know some people like it in the comments, some people don't, but, you know, it's clear what side gets cancelled and what side doesn't get cancelled, right? It's like a two-tier society. So, you know, the men have to make sure they're saying everything that's okay with the woman, otherwise the men will get cancelled. Right wing have to pander to left wing. Even people who eat meat or drink dairy products, they have to pander to the vegans. And all these major corporations, they have that double standard, right? If you're straight, you have to pander to the rainbow flag community. So if your entire social dynamic is like that, you're on edge constantly if you're not one of those preferred demographics, right? And then the most important piece of advice before we look through some more funny clips is if you've got these events coming up over the next few months, you should arrive on time or arrive early and leave early. So you stay for the first few drinks and then you leave politely, right? You should go to a Christmas dinner or something. Don't drink alcohol. You can go and drink alcohol with your friends. I would say just go there, stay for the meal, chit chat with people, and then leave. Don't stay late. Anything bad typically happens when people drink too much alcohol at a work event or they stay too late. People become a bit too honest about their opinions, even if they're sober. And you never know. You might be having an honest conversation with your colleague about maybe something going on in your personal life. Doesn't have to be that controversial, like a political matter. But then all of a sudden, that little discussion you had with a coworker about your relationship outside of work, they're gossiping about it in their free time. And that's all people have to do in the office these days. They will leverage gossip to benefit their career, to make you look worse than other people, you know. And then if you do the same with them and they find out about it, they'll completely destroy you. So just be careful. Let's listen to some more funny clips here.
We are better throughout the year for having in spirit become a child again at this. Yeah, I want to do that at home though. Like, I don't want to do that with coworkers. I want to do that at home. Some gifts bring instant joy, just like sucking candies through a straw and moving them to another plate. Junk in the trunk, keep me up, suck it up. I mean, I see what they're trying to do, but I don't know if that's the best. Hashtag.
I'll bet you could suck a golf ball through a garden hose.
Sir, no, sir.
Hashtag suck it up, HR. Hashtag keep me up though, you know what I'm saying? We can create some magic memories.
Oh my God, not at work.
It's always been my thought that instead of making people come to these or wasting a Friday before everyone goes home to do these games, just not have these games and let everyone go home instead.
Right, that obviously people would prefer to go home, live life on their own terms, right? And that's what it's all about. But when you're in the corporate environment, you have to understand how to navigate these environments. Now, for me as a grown adult, right, and I'm sure for many of you watching this, if you had to participate in this game, which is moving Smarties or little sweets from one plate to the other, competing with someone else to do the same under a time limit, it's just, I mean, we're grown adults, and these people are grown adults too, right? And if you look very carefully, hopefully you can see it, this person who's posting this, the name's Mahek Agarwal, and they're the business head of Exeto Global, right? If you're the business head and you have to participate in things like this, it's really like, what is going on? And I don't want to blame this all on women, because you see a lot of men behave immature in the office environment. But it's this whole idea that the workplace is like daycare. You have grown adults behaving like children. And I understand if you're chilling with your friends, male or female, maybe a mixed group outside of work, you might participate in like some kind of silly game. Maybe you're just chilling at home with 4 or 5 of your friends and you might have some kind of funny game like this. But when you're doing it at work where it's meant to be professional, you're kind of, how can I say, diluting the workplace environment. It makes everything seem like a joke when you're expected to do this in your free time after work, unpaid, to keep your employer happy. That's why I recommend that key piece of advice: you arrive on time and you leave early if you can, right? Always make sure that you've got like some kind of standard excuse. You have a family member, maybe a child you have to look out for as a parent. If you're like many people these days who maybe they don't have kids, they can't afford to have kids, they're single, whatever's going on, always make sure you have a so-called imaginary nephew or niece. You have to pick them up from school after their daycare session. You have to go and drop your nephew or your niece, whether they're real or not, off to a martial arts class, pick them up from the gym and take them home, things like that. So all those type of family excuses you can get away with. Health excuses, saying you have a physiotherapy appointment, you're going to your chiropractor, that's why you have to leave early from the Christmas dinner. Keep one of those standard excuses. Health and family are great excuses to get out of these type of situations. Now, if you look at the top of this, it talks about her little post. She mentions, some gifts to bring instant joy, creating memories that last a lifetime, building lasting memories with our loved ones. It's how we spend Christmas celebrations. And Exeter Globalist Corporation, right? And these aren't your loved ones. She can say this because she's a business head, right? She's less likely to be disposed of compared to the junior employees who are probably playing along with a lot of this nonsense, right? So this is what I mean when they try to pretend the work environment, which is financially based, right? Regardless of which industry you're in, you're there because you're providing a financial benefit to the company. They try to pretend this financial environment is a family environment. And this somewhat does fall on the woman in the workplace environment who kind of want this family environment. If you want a family environment, you can have a family outside of work. Don't expect your co-workers to be treated like they're your children, or that they're your brother you can poke fun at. You're another grown man who doesn't know you and who's not related to you. You can't really joke around with them in certain ways. One thing to look out for here is that there's always some weird innuendo in a lot of these type of communications, right? And I'm sure women must have some self-awareness on this, right? Junk in the trunk, keep me up, suck it up, right? Now, junk in the trunk, that only has like one euphemism, one type of innuendo, so she must be aware of what she's doing there, saying junk in the trunk, keep me up, and suck it up, right? In that kind of combination, which is on the LinkedIn post, she knows what she's doing. But because she's a female employee in the workplace, she can make that joke. But if you're a man and you make any of those jokes, if you're a man and you posted this on LinkedIn, it would be a HR issue. It'd be a harassment issue. Why have you recorded these women doing this and put these 3 hashtags junk in the trunk, keep me up, and suck it up? This is, it's quite obvious that, women are allowed to make certain jokes, and as a man, you're not. So if you're attending these corporate environments, these corporate parties, be aware of that type of double standard that you might have to put up with. Now, to give you some real life examples I've dealt with within the finance industry for over 10 years working for some major corporations, you always have to tiptoe around some of these type of jokes that women will make in that type of workplace social environment that you can't make as a man. You can't even laugh at because it could be used against you, right? I remember countless times having to go to like a Christmas brunch or Christmas evening events, I mentioned before, parties. But one thing that would stand out is there'd be one particular company I won't name, they would have a Christmas brunch. So on Christmas Eve, people would leave the office early and they would have to go to a team brunch. But at this Christmas brunch event, it's not like people are drinking alcohol, it's just like listening to middle-aged white women, the classic AWFL, affluent white female liberal. You've heard about them on my channel. You see them in the workplace environment. And they get away with talking about whatever they want to talk about, saying whatever they want to say, things you couldn't say, making jokes about twerking, making jokes about some relationship on a reality TV show, making inappropriate jokes about other men's appearances in the office. And then I'm sitting there, and I was relatively a new employee at that time. I'd been there for about 6 months. And it's like, okay, so how am I meant to respond respond? What am I meant to say? If I say that this is inappropriate conversation, it'd be leveraged against me. If I laugh, it could come across inappropriate. If I make a joke about a joke about a woman's appearance or something like that, that would be leveraged against me. And this is what I mean. There's like a complete two-tier society that you have to tolerate in these type of environments, right? And these dumb challenges and games, they're not for grown men. And I want you to let me know in the comments, because I know typically there's lots of men watching the channel, some women watch the channel too. But what would you prefer to do as a team event, right? Archery, things like that, just something like an interesting event that you actually develop some kind of skill. But I know most people would be like, oh, that's inappropriate, things like that. You can't do that for a workplace social event, but you can suck smarties and move them from one plate to another. You can't have to listen to middle-aged white women talk about twerking at Christmas brunch. That's socially acceptable. And that shows you how the workplace environment is alienating men, work hours, after the work hours, and then it wonders why men don't want to participate in this society.
Handy co-founder and CEO at Quantonics. Christmas is all about creating happy memories that will last a lifetime. Look at that Merry Christmas. They each got bottles of water, and I don't really count that as a cake, but what a Christmas here. CEO's really going all out for them.
So let's have a look at that image there, right? Now, this is a depressing image. I remember, you know, this whole thing about, you know, happy memories and lasting a lifetime. Only senior management can speak in this way. And you can see, I assume, maybe the guy in the middle with the red t-shirt or the red jumper, he's maybe the management guy, and everyone else is pretending to play along with this completely ridiculous thing. And you'll notice, maybe I've noticed, just looking at this, of course, we're just reading between the lines, the guy on the far right here in the green jumper, where you can see my mouse is, now this guy seems maybe particularly disillusioned. I think if you're a younger man, you're probably more likely to see through some of this BS and you're not worn down by it. But I think over the years, a lot of men, they get worn down by it to the point where you can't even sense on their face that they're a bit like disillusioned with it. Now, I'll give you an example, again, working at a major investment bank where I was moving from one team to another. But just to show how disposable you are, I remember my manager at the time said, oh, we need to get you a cake and have a little leaving talk because you're moving from one team to the other. So just at the last minute, he's like, okay, cool. What he did, this is how ridiculous it is, how completely fake it is. He gave me his credit card, he gave me his PIN number, and he sent me and a co-worker to go to a bakery that was about 20 minutes away to buy a cake for myself, to have a team meeting that lasted like less than 10 minutes of me moving from one team to the other. And he was like, yeah, it's been really good having you on this team. And they came up with some mumbo jumbo. It's so ridiculous. The workplace environment is ridiculous. These corporate parties are ridiculous. And it just shows you, like, you know, how disposable you are in the corporate environment. And that's why you should follow my little tips about, you know, keeping things polite and brief. And that will maintain your sanity while you get your work done, while you have to attend some level of these type of corporate events, and get on with earning an income. And this next clip, we're going to look through a Christmas event. And again, this level of emasculation that men have to face is so overt. Women are allowed to, you know, how can I say, wear less clothes at these type of events, as you see some of the women might be, or men have to make a fool of themselves. That's the only thing. Right? That's the only option for a man is to play it extremely safe and get called boring, or a man to make a fool of himself to entertain women. And you know, some of you guys might be aware of the red pill space, things like that. There's a term called clown game, as in being a clown, like a joker, or jester maxing, which is basically society and society's expectations of men beyond working hard, is that men have to basically make a joke of themselves to entertain women. Men have to be entertainers, not protectors, not providers. They have to basically make a fool of themselves to fit in this corporate environment and survive in society in general. So let's look at a clip of that.
Second place is Greg. Best dressed landslide win. My main man, DJ.
You get a gift card, yay! Just let him go home and give him the gift card anyways. This is stupid. These people standing in the back are the ones who don't want to be there. Is it too early to go home? I got here early. Does that mean I can leave early?
So let's look at this guy in the back, because that is a very interesting observation. And there's really two types of men, and I don't want to kind of, you know, make anyone feel bad or oversimplify things, but let's just say there's two types of men. There's the guy in the front who doesn't mind making a fool of himself to entertain and participate in the corporate humiliation ritual that women want, and that the companies that run these, the people that run these companies in senior management want. They want men to be these kind of like dogs on a leash, these castrated, neutered dogs on a leash that they can control and boss around. And, you know, that's part of the whole equality agenda. Equality isn't about, you know, treating everyone fairly. Equality, beyond treating everyone fairly, which has kind of become an obvious norm, it's about lowering standards, lowering your living standards, lowering the quality of the general person. And you can see this throughout society, right? So this kind of, I don't want to use the term, but I'll use it here, soy boy, bugman, new male, NU male, you can look up these terms. That's what this guy is in the front, right? He's dressed up as an elf or a kind of Santa's helper, or however you want to do it, as a grown adult man. And then you've got the guy in the back who's wearing a normal t-shirt, and he's thinking to himself, the guy in the blue t-shirt in the back, why am I here, right? Why am I having to make a fool of myself or pretend that this is normal or okay? This is the pressure that a lot of men are under. Just to earn an income, they have to think, how can I participate in this humiliation ritual one foot out? It's unsustainable. Society can't keep treating men this way, right? And I don't know how productive or effective some of these employees are, but the point I'm making, the same way in my recent video about Amazon's return to the office, when Amazon was pushing people to return to the office and not work from home, it's not considering who's the most effective worker and who's the least effective. It's considering who's most compliant, who's more slave-like, and the most slave-like people will be willing to come back to the office. In this case, the guy in the back, he might be quiet, maybe not the most sociable, but maybe he does a good quality job. But because he's not participating in this type of foolish social game and the popularity contest that the office has become, you know, playground politics and high school politics of who's popular and who's fitting in, it's come over to the workplace environment. So the guy in the back is probably as productive as it can be. He might be disillusioned with the workplace environment. He might notice that working hard's not going to pay off unless he's playing along with the social game. And regardless of his productivity, he's going to be treated worse. And it's one thing to be treated socially worse. It's another thing to have that impact your financial earning potential. I have no problem working hard, but I'm not going to humiliate myself for a paycheck. And this system can't divorce the idea between a productive employee or productive male and a subservient male. It would rather have the subservient, submissive male that this corporation can use like a slave than the productive guy who's going to innovate and push profits up high. It's completely discounted these type of men, right? And what ends up happening is, you know, you end up getting questions if you're the guy in the back. Why aren't you participating and having fun? Why aren't you engaging in this degrading ritual, even though they'd word it another way, right? And then, you know, this is the type of thing, it's like, what are you willing to do for a paycheck? What are you willing to do? And, you know, there's always some people in the office who are typically based, if we want to use the word based, or red pills, they can see through the nonsense. And it's just not normal for men to be expected to do this. And this system doesn't realize that you're going to keep pushing men until you hit a breaking point.
Jingle bells ringing in.
This is so humiliating because you know it's not optional.
And what he said here, it's not optional. What does that mean, right? You go to work. I'm sure some of these people here, maybe they're highly skilled coders or tech guys or salespeople or whatever. And you know, if you don't participate in this, it's going to impact your bonus. It's going to impact your ability to get a promotion. Talking about the culture of humiliation at corporate environments, I remember working for an investment bank where a manager, and I don't try to knock people personally, but he was slightly overweight. And he essentially was wearing some tight cycling gear because they were doing a charity bicycle ride. And everyone was kind of making fun of him. And he was a senior manager of our manager's manager, several layers up. But this is what I mean. It's kind of like, you're kind of made to believe that if you're a man and you want to succeed in the corporate environment these days, you have to become you have to make a joke out of yourself. And I don't mind, everyone can have some humor. I make some jokes about myself sometimes throughout these videos, but it's gone so far that it's like, okay, if you want to succeed in the corporate environment, it's not the, you know, well put together man that will succeed. It's the man that's willing to You put aside his personal values, get rid of, traditional masculine virtues, which would be strength, honor, courage, bravery. All of those things have to be put aside. So a man is like a slimy, greasy salesman, right? Not just a man, but also for women, right? You want to go to work and do a good job and have some dignity. But this society doesn't want you to maintain your dignity or self-respect just so you can earn a paycheck, right? And I remember I didn't participate in that bike ride, and our team had to basically stand on the sidelines while they were starting this charity bike ride. And I just kind of faded to the back. I went down the escalator and there was a Starbucks nearby, and I got a coffee and I got on my phone and I was just scrolling through my phone because we all had to be outside. We couldn't be at the office and at the desk being productive because we have to participate in this humiliation ritual or support it on the sidelines clapping. But this is what you should do, right? Always be the quiet guy, in my opinion. You be the quiet guy, be productive. Be seen at important times, but always know when to fade to the back. The same way you leave some Christmas parties early before people get drunk and tell about all their personal lives. Same way, if you have a daytime event and you can be a bit less seen, do that. Because that was the funniest thing to me, because I just recently started that job at the time a few years ago. And I was like, okay, cool, this is my opportunity. Everyone's chit-chatting, faded to the back, went down the escalator, went through a few glass doors, and there I was in Starbucks, chilling on my phone, waited about half an hour, and then walked back into the office, and no one noticed. This is the trick. Now, left slightly grainy, but I'm sure you can see on the screen, we have Goldman Sachs, we have Goldman Sachs Pride Day, and we have people who work at Goldman Sachs wearing pink t-shirts. Now, what I'm going to say, for legal reasons, I'm not going to reference which company, where I had to work at a particular company, and they printed out pink Pride t-shirts for every single employee. They put them at the end of the desks on the sales and trading floor and throughout the workplace, and they had different sizes, and you were expected to wear this on one day during Pride Day. Now, as a straight man, I'm not going to wear a pink t-shirt for Pride Day. Yeah, if people want to have that lifestyle, that's their choice. I'm not going to comment on it. But it became an optional thing, but it was so aggressively pushed by the MDs, the managing directors, that you had to do this, to the point there'd be people on that day who didn't want to wear it, but they would wear a pink shirt of their own just to show solidarity. And it became a thing that was like, you're really standing out if you're not going to wear that. And the whole day went by, and it was one thing after the other where they were kind of pressurizing people to wear that. And I was just like, I'm here to work. Nothing in my work and what I'm doing in this quite stressful corporate job on the trading floor should involve me having to wear a pink t-shirt to keep the management happy. And then what ended up happening is the MD, the managing director, they sent an email around, we need to take pictures of team members together wearing these pink t-shirts to show their solidarity with this community. Now, if you're a straight man, I want you to let me know in the comments, what would you do if you were put under pressure for the sake of your job to keep your, not just one, but 2 or 3 managing directors happy, literally 3 managing directors happy, at a major corporate job to earn your income, just to survive and be a productive employee as a man. What would you do if 3 of your managing directors were basically saying, you need to wear this pink t-shirt and take photos with team members? Let me know in the comments what you would do, because this is what I did. Oh, did I miss the thing where we had to wear pink t-shirts? Oh yeah, I was just going to the coffee and I had to make a quick phone call to my mother. Again, family, health, accidental acceptable mistake, going to get a coffee. These are all the things you should opt for. Who's going to wave my flag? Do we have a flag for straight men? I remember the kind of meme a few years ago. Some of you will remember it, the whole super straight day. Maybe we should have a day for straight men. These things don't exist. We've been pushed completely out of the corporate culture. So my advice to you, just to finish this up, is maintain your dignity, maintain your self-respect. Use some of those helpful, convenient excuses that I mentioned before. I've worked for over 10 years in the corporate environment. I know how to play these little games and leverage it and still make a decent income. And I offer career advice. Now, if you want career advice to navigating this crazy world we live in right now, feel free to reach out to me. The link's in the description. Let me know in the comments. I'm sure you've learned a few things from this video. And thanks for listening. There are 2 recommended videos on your screen right now, and I'll see you next time.